Every currency dies. That's not a prediction, that's history. Every empire, every government, every economic system that's ever tried to print its way to prosperity. The Romans did it with silver. The Weimar Republic did it with paper. Zimbabwe did it with trillion-dollar bills. And now, well, maybe it's our turn. But here's the thing no one tells you. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly, quietly, and then all of a sudden. And when it does, the people who saw it coming, they don't just survive. They come out the other side better off. Not because they're rich, not because they're lucky, but because they understood something simple. Money only matters when it holds value. And value, real value, doesn't come from a government promise. So if you're feeling like the world doesn't make financial sense anymore, if you've been noticing prices rising faster than your income, if you're wondering why your savings feel like they're going nowhere, you're not crazy. You're simply paying attention. In this video, I want to show you what history can teach us, and more importantly, how smart people prepare before a collapse. Let's get to it. By the way, I'm Noel Lorenzana. None of this is financial advice. I'm just sharing what history tells us and how I'm thinking through it myself. Recognizing the pattern. Here's the part that makes people feel uncomfortable. This has all happened before. Currencies don't collapse because of a single bad policy or a single bad leader. They collapse because humans do what humans always do when they gain control of the money printer. They spend too much, borrow too much, and eventually they cheat the system. Take ancient Rome, for example. Yeah, I know everyone brings up Rome, not because it's dramatic, but because the playbook was written there. They started with silver coins, real money. Over time, to fund wars and public works, the emperors slowly reduced the silver content. They started with around 95%, which later became 80%, then 50%, then barely a coating of silver on a copper slug. People noticed, prices rose, and trust broke. And eventually, so did the empire. Fast forward a couple thousand years, and you'd think we'd learn, right? But in the last 100 years alone, Weimar Germany printed so many German marks that they became worthless. Zimbabwe, they created $100 trillion notes that couldn't buy a loaf of bread. Argentina had burned through like 5 different currencies in the last century? Lebanon, banks froze accounts, the currency lost over 90% of its value in less than 3 years. And now look around. The US has over $38 trillion in debt and growing. The interest alone is now bigger than the entire defense budget. Japan, even worse. Europe, yeah, they've got problems too. And yet we're all told, don't worry, everything's fine. And that's the part that gets me. When did it become controversial to say, maybe unlimited money printing isn't a great long-term plan? This isn't about fear-mongering, this is just simple math. It's debt that can't or was never intended to be repaid, promises that can't be kept, and purchasing power that quietly disappears. What's different this time? So what makes this time different? Well, for starters, it's global. Every past collapse was isolated. Rome fell, but China was fine. Zimbabwe imploded, but the US dollar was strong. Argentina defaulted, but people still trusted the euro. This time, it seems to be all the major players. The US, Europe, Japan, China, even the so-called emerging markets. Everyone is carrying too much debt. Everyone is printing money to stay afloat. And nobody wants to talk about the elephant in the room. They're all living off of promises that can't be kept. You've got central banks pretending they've got things under control, raise rates to fight inflation, but not so high that they might collapse the bond market. You've got politicians running up record deficits, spending money they don't have. And you've got millions of everyday people who are just trying to hold on paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, central banks are buying record amounts of gold. The BRICS nations are openly settling trade in other currencies, including gold. China and Russia are building their own financial systems. India is doing local currency deals with Africa. Even France, a US ally, bought liquid natural gas from China in yuan. That is not normal. And yet the average person, they're still being told to work harder and save more in a currency that's being devalued by design. But here's the part that really concerns me. We're already past the part of the story where governments borrow too much. We're now in the part where they have to borrow just to stay afloat, just to make interest payments, just to keep up appearances. That's the loop governments are stuck in. And once you're in it, there's no way out that doesn't end with maybe hyperinflation, devaluation, or worse, a reset. Will it be tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now? I don't know. No one does. By the way, if you stuck with me this far, thank you. And if you're finding this type of video helpful, please do me a favor and hit the like button and maybe subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out the channel and helps this message reach more people who need to hear it. All right, let's get back to it. The real solution isn't just a metal. Now look, I appreciate the merits of gold and silver. They've stood the test of time, they've survived every empire, and they're real in a way paper and digital code will never be. But let me be honest with you. If you think just buying a few gold coins is going to save you when things get bad, you might be in for a rude wake-up call. Because the solution isn't just a precious metal, it's value. Let me explain. In any financial collapse, Rome, Zimbabwe, Lebanon, and now Iran, what separated the people who got wiped out from the people who made it through, it wasn't just those who held gold. It was those who understood value, real, useful, durable value. So what does that look like today? Yes, precious metals still matter. Physical gold and silver have their place. I'm not against ETFs or mining companies either. Just know they come with a risk and there will be a time to sell. And let's be honest, metals are getting expensive, but they have pulled back a bit. Regardless, some folks are already priced out, including me. But what else holds value? Productive assets, businesses that cash flow, select real estate, assets that people need, not just hope will go up. For example, a small business that earns in multiple currencies, that's value. A rental property in a stable area with no mortgage, that's value. Equity in companies that sell food, energy, tools, medicine, that's value. Land you can use, that's real. That's good value. But just remember that land is immovable and taxable. And then there's the simple stuff no one really talks about. Stuff, skills, community, tools, supplies, things with a long shelf life. The ability to fix something, grow something, trade for something, that's all valuable. Now you might be thinking, what about cryptocurrencies? I understand the merits of crypto, but with all the scams and rug pulls, I'm skeptical. But I also get why people are intrigued by decentralized finance. Because when trust breaks down, people look for trustless alternatives. A mindset shift from saving to surviving. Let me say something that might feel uncomfortable. Saving in a declining currency is not saving. It's losing your savings slowly. Sorry to break it to you. We've been taught that being responsible means working hard, spending less, and setting aside a little money for the future. That worked when the money actually held its value. But in a system where your savings erode quietly every year, where the price of shelter, food, and energy never stop rising, and where trillions can be created with a few keystrokes, that old mindset doesn't protect you anymore. This doesn't mean you stop being responsible. It means you need to get smarter and take responsibility with your financial future. Responsibility today means asking hard questions, learning real history, saying no to trust us from the same kind of people who designed this flawed system, and building a life around things that last, not things that vanish when the power goes out or the banks freeze their operations. Because when confidence goes, the system goes with it. And if you're waiting for someone to come save it, well, they're not coming. But the good news is you don't need them to. You don't have to predict the exact trigger. You just have to see the pattern and position yourself accordingly. You can hold real assets, build real skills, focus on real value, and walk through the coming storm with clarity while others are paralyzed by the shock. And depending on your situation, your family, and your local laws, you might also want to think about personal security. That could mean having a home safety plan, or if you're comfortable and it's legal where you are, maybe it means owning a firearm and knowing how to use it responsibly. Not because you're expecting the world to fall apart, because if things get really bad, no one's coming to save you. Again, I know this is personal and not for everyone, but in times of stress or scarcity, people can act out of desperation. And just like we insure our money or protect our food supply, protecting your family should be part of the conversation too. Look, I wish I had all the answers, but I don't. I'm not a prepper, a gold bug, or someone rooting for collapse. I'm just a regular guy who's been paying attention. Someone who's lived long enough, read enough books, and seen enough to know this system is not built to last. So whatever you decide to do, whether it's buying some real assets, starting a side business, learning a new skill, or just getting your financial house in order, start now while you're still ahead of the crowd. Because the people who act early, they don't just survive these moments. They're the ones who quietly come out ahead. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you want to know how to survive the coming economic collapse, then you need to check out my video right up here. Thanks for watching, and see you in that video.